Thank you. I'll begin the meeting by asking Deputy Mayor Henderson if there are any additions to the agenda.
Yes, Your Worship. A delegation from Phoenix Genesis Development, Inc. regarding Heritage Harbor Townhouse Development and a building improvement grant application for 77 Albert Street, Coburg, and a request from the minister responsible for persons with disabilities to proclaim the week of May 28th through to June 3rd, 2017 as National Accessibility Week will be presented at the meeting. Action recommended that these matters be added to the meeting agenda.
Seconder, Councillor Darling. All in favor? It's carried. Are there any declarations of interest from members of council tonight? If there are not any, Ms. Brace, we can proceed.
Your Worship, at this time we have the adoption of the minutes of the previous regular meeting.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Action recommended that council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of April 23rd, 2017, the special meeting held on May 1st, 2017, and the special meeting of May 8th, 2017.
Okay. And a seconder, Councillor Seguin. Any discussion on the... All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, at this time we have a delegation by Patrick Bonneville from Phoenix Genesis Developments, Inc. regarding a building improvement loan grant application and cultural heritage impact assessment for Heritage Harbor Townhouse Development on property located at 77 Albert Street in Coburg.
Okay. Well, Patrick, are you speaking? Or John? Was it Patrick or John? Okay, then please come up to the mic, to the dais. And you're both familiar with the process. You have 10 minutes, and then I will open it up for questions of clarity from members of council.
Yes, Your Honour. My name is John Lee, for those people that don't know me. I've just flown in from Florida. I got on a plane at 12:30 today to get to this meeting because I think it's very important for us and for the town. Patrick was going to talk about the grant and the loan. Actually, I don't think we should get the two issues that we've got here confused, because that's one thing, and what I really want to talk about is far more important. We were granted 8,300 or something, and also approved for a $15,000 loan. Our only point about that is the loan does not work for us, because those premises over there are going to be condominiums, and if there was a loan provided, the first condominium that was sold would mean that the loan would be paid off. So hopefully it will be paid off on that basis within 12 months, so there's no point. And that actually brings me to, so I'd like to leave that with Alice and the people in the planning department, etc., to consider that. And just on the comment of these grants and loans, by the way, I did read some of the comments from two of the councillors about how these loans and grants were being approved for and for what purpose. And this is my personal opinion, that Councillor Darling and his colleague were right. These should not be for maintenance. These should be for things that we, as the public and the citizens of Coburg, can actually see. And the whole idea, I think, is to benefit and improve the look of our main downtown properties. And building a roof or putting a roof on shouldn't really normally be doing that. So I agree with those comments. That's just my two penneth. What I want to bring up, though, really, is that the Heritage Harbor townhouses, that is really the phase one of the first set of projects that are going to take place on the Coburg Jail property. The intention is to leave the old building, the manor house, as it is today, and hopefully to find a new restaurant tenant, to have perhaps a smaller restaurant in there, a sort of fine dining sort of place that fits in with the type of townhouse development that we're putting in there. So we don't want any wings and beer and cat and fiddle and whatever. We want a nice tenant in there. Basically, what we want to do is clean up that building and improve it. So far, we've spent quite a bit of money on cleaning the brickwork, and the windows are just another extension of that. We wouldn't be asking for the windows for the townhouses that we're building to sell. So that was never the point. We were never asking for that. And those are the ones in the jail walls and around the back of it. Now, all of this was merely meant to be phase one of the Coburg Jail development. There's the land immediately to the south, which is currently used as a car parking lot, and then there's other land which is attached to that property slightly to the west. So let's consider this to be one of a number of phases. Now, there's a couple of points that I really want to bring out in connection with what we're doing with the townhouses. We got a heritage permit under Heritage Bylaw 97, which permitted what we were doing, but it gave us 2 years to actually build, sell, and finish those townhouses. Now, apparently, that's a general rule in the heritage districts. Frankly, for commercial projects, it's totally impractical, and it can't really work out. One of the things that's really I'm trying to bring out tonight is that when the town is writing, when the councillors are approving bylaws, we have to be careful that we don't kill the golden goose, and we don't do things that are going to impede development of our downtown. And we, of course, at the moment are the only people that have been developing downtown in a heritage sense, forgetting about the waterfront projects. And there's going to be one here alongside eventually. That's in the heritage district. And then, of course, there's other pieces and parcels around the downtown. The overall point, by the way, that we should all bear in mind is the heritage districts are one thing, and then, for example, Harbour Breeze, the old Legion property, that's immediately outside a heritage district. So we're putting heritage projects at a disadvantage to other properties which are in the neighbourhood. Now, the particular thing that I wrote a letter to all of the councillors was about the requirement for a cultural heritage impact assessment. Now, that is not required under the Town of Coburg's official plan, currently in force. And that's dated 2002. And the point is, we're being asked to live up to what somebody has decided that we should change the clause in Section 8, which makes it much more onerous to actually do a development of this nature. Originally, we were told that we would have to get a heritage impact statement. Now, a statement to me is something very simple, very easy, and I didn't see any particular problem with it. A cultural heritage impact assessment is a totally different thing, and the cost of that is at least $10,000. And that's the sort of thing that we've got to be careful about, imposing these things on developments which we all want to see go forward to enhance the downtown. So I'd like to probably make a submission, not tonight, but I'd like to make a submission that the official plan for 2005, which has not yet actually taken effect, to see if we can change that particular requirement in 2005 for a heritage impact assessment. And what I'd like as well, so I'll be addressing that in separate correspondence, but what I'd like the council to look at right now is we would like to be governed by the official plan dated 2002, not by the proposed 2010, because there's a radical difference in terms of what is required for cultural heritage developments in the downtown. An assessment is expensive. It involves investigating the neighbourhoods in every which way or form, photographs, blah, blah, blah. It's a full report. And it's just another burden to put on developers. And, you know, everybody complains about the price of real estate these days, and nobody's disagreeing. It's going too high. But everything that we put on, whether it's development fees or building permit fees, etc., is all adding to the cost of the housing. So what I would like to see the council do is roll back this requirement that we need a cultural heritage impact assessment and stay with what is required under the 2002 official plan, which is still in force, which requires a heritage impact statement. There's a huge difference between the two. And I'm asking the council to comply with our existing official plan, and I'm going to be asking the council to look at this particular section for the future, because, for example, in the Coburg Jail property, there might be 4 different projects in and around there done by us. And if it's going to cost us $10,000 or more per project, it's money that's not really being well spent. We all know what that building looks like. We've all been looking at it for years. All we have to do is look out the window. So I think we've got to be careful in terms of asking for something which is quite possibly not really reasonable. If we were in an area...
Excuse me, John, can you wrap up in a minute?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, just give me a little bit more than that, would you, Your Honour? This is important. If we were building a 10-storey building, I totally understand that. But in this particular case, we're just taking an open building. We're not increasing the height. We're not changing the looks. So to go out and get some consultants to come in and pay them $10,000 to me is ludicrous. And furthermore, it's not called for under the official plan. So I would ask that our approval be amended to say that to comply with the official plan dated 2002, and also to note that the 2-year requirement to finish this project completely be waived. It'll be finished as soon as it can be. We're moving forward. We've got the plans. We've got all the suite layouts, names, etc., etc. So we're good to go once we get the site.
Okay, John, do you have a copy of everything you presented, or is it all just verbal?
Well, because I just got on a plane at 12:30
So
today.
then we can't really. So
Unfortunately,
I was looking for something to put on the record.
I can probably write something afterwards, if that helps. But
Yeah.
I was just scrambling to get on a plane because I thought this
Okay,
is
so
we want to get on with this project as fast as anybody else does.
A brief summary of that. I guess if you have a brief summary of that at some point, you could give it to the clerk and she'll put it in the record. So, I'm going to open up to members of council now for any questions of clarity. Councillor Rowden, you're first.
Yes, Worship. I just maybe we could get a report from staff in regards to the difference between a impact study, heritage impact study, or a heritage impact assessment. What's the difference between the two? And I'm not familiar with that.
Well, I think Councillor Burkett may have a delegation action at some point, but I'm going to. So for the time being, I'm just opening it up to questions of clarity. Councillor Darling.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Lee, you said $10,000 for a heritage impact assessment. Do you have an official quote of that, or you're just ballparking this figure?
We've got a quote for actually a minimum of $8,800 plus HST, which is $10,000.
Okay.
And of course it could be more. We don't know. That's what they ballparked it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions of clarity from council? None? Okay. Then at some point, if you get that to us, John,
Certainly.
I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Your Worship, I'm not aware if there is a delegation act anywhere now.
Councillor Burkett?
I I would say the delegation action is receive this for information purposes because staff is already creating a report.
Okay. Right. Seconder? Councillor Seguin? All right. Any further discussion on receiving it for information because staff are already working on it? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, at this time we have the Committee of the Whole meeting notes.
Deputy Mayor Henderson?
The action recommended, the council receive the notes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on May 8th, 2017 for information purposes.
Seconder? Councillor Darling? Any discussion on this? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, under General Government Protection Services, we have a request from the Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities requesting proclamation of National Accessibility Week in the town of Cobourg.
Okay. Councillor McCarthy?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is not the motion at this point, right?
No, it's not a motion yet. It's just
presentation. Yes. The email correspondence was received, and I know the members of the Accessibility Committee want to bring awareness of the accessibility and to point out that the National Week is called Accessibility. There's a capital A in the middle of inclusiveness, and to make our world more accessible to those with disabilities. And so what our goal is during that week to profile initiatives in the community, and there are several. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Did you read the action recommended here?
I apologize for that. So the action recommended is that Council proclaim the week of May 28th to June 3rd, 2017 as National Accessibility Week as requested by the Honourable Carla Qualtrough, Minister of Sports and Persons with Disabilities, in order to highlight and promote inclusion and accessibility in the town of Cobourg.
Okay. And the seconder for that? Councillor Burkett? Further discussion? All in favor? It will be on the agenda later.
Your Worship, under Planning and Development Services, we have a memo from the Director of Planning and Development regarding a request for an exemption to part lot control for blocks 12, 15, and 16, Plan 39M 880 for Wilkins Gate, John Chalovich Way, in New Amherst.
Okay, Councillor Burkett.
The action recommended that Council receive the report for information purposes and authorize preparation of a bylaw which exempts blocks 13, 15, and 16, Plan 39M-880, Wilkins Gate, Joan Chelovich Way, from the part lot control provisions of the Planning Act RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended for presentation to Council at the regular meeting of May 15th, 2017.
And the seconder? Councillor Rowden, any discussion? This is quite a routine matter. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have a notice of the hearing of a Committee of Adjustment for 167 King Street West and 164 Albert Street, 168 Albert Street in Cobourg.
Okay. Councillor Burkett again.
The action recommended that Council endorse the comments of the planning staff and receive the notice of the hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for information purposes.
Okay. Seconder? Councillor McCarthy. Any discussion on this one? All in favor? It's carried.
Your Worship, we now have the motions, first being General Government Services.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Henderson, you're first.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Whereas the Committee of the Whole considered a letter from Kathleen Pickard, Registered Nurse Association of Ontario, RNAO, Durham, Northumberland Chapter, requesting proclamation of Nursing Week from May 8 to May 14, 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that Council proclaim the week of May 8 to May 14, 2017 as Nursing Week in the town of Cobourg, recognizing the importance of the health and well-being of people in this municipality, and encourage everyone to recognize the many services provided by dedicated nurses and the tremendous contribution they make to the health and well-being of its citizens every day.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Okay.
We have motion under Parks and Recreation Services.
Okay. Councillor Darling.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a motion from the Committee of Whole to appoint a Communities in Bloom member. The motion is moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sagan. Whereas in the Committee of the Whole, Councillor Darling presented applications to fill one vacant position on the Cobourg Communities in Bloom Advisory Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that Council appoint Dora Margaret Bodie as a member of the Cobourg Communities in Bloom Advisory Committee.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Darling again.
Yes, I have a motion from the Committee of the Whole to authorize the installation of flagpoles at Rotary Waterfront Park. Again, the motion moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sagan. Whereas the Committee of the Whole, wait, look at the right one here. Whereas the Committee of the Whole considered a memo from the Manager of Parks and a memo from the Secretary of Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee regarding the flag project in Rotary Waterfront Park. Now therefore be it resolved that Council endorse the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee and authorize the Town of Cobourg Parks Department to install and construct 3 flag poles in Rotary Waterfront Park as requested by the Rotary Club of Cobourg, pending the coordination with town staff regarding the additional flags as part of the Victoria Square project. And further, that the cost of the construction and installation of the flag poles in the amount of up to $10,000 is to be funded by the Rotary Club of Cobourg, with a stipulation that the Town of Cobourg be responsible for ongoing maintenance of the flag poles. And further, that the Rotary Club of Cobourg will, at the time of construction, have a plaque mounted in the concrete reading, the Rotary Club of Cobourg commemorating Canada's 150th anniversary. And further, that the Rotary Club of Cobourg shall be permitted to fly the Rotary International flag at the Rotary Harbourfront Park only during municipally sanctioned special events such as the Waterfront Festival and in accordance with the approved flag policy of the Town of Cobourg. And further, that for any other special occasions significant to Rotary, the Rotary Club may be permitted to fly the Rotary International flag at the Rotary Harbourfront Park only with the approval from and at the discretion of the Manager of Parks or designate.
Very good. So that's been moved and seconded. It's something that we committed to Rotary a while ago, and I know that Ms. Bain has been working with Rotary very closely to bring this to fruition, and we've had a few minor changes, I guess, in terms of maintenance and the appropriate flag etiquette. So that's the few differences, but again recommended by Ms. Bain. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have a motion under Public Works Services.
Okay. Councillor Rowden.
Yes, Your Worship, and motion in regards to the Committee of the Whole and award the tender for the replacement of the WPCP number 2 administration building. And whereas the Committee of the Whole considered a memo from the Manager of Environmental Services regarding the administrative building, roof replacement, water pollution control plant number 2, now therefore be it resolved that Council approve the expenditure of $135,977, excluding HST and consulting fees, to be funded from the approved 2017 Environmental Services capital budget, and further that Council award the immediate replacement of the administration building roof at Water Pollution Control Plant number 2 to Lone Star Roofing Limited, which was the lowest of 4 bids received for this project. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McCartney.
Okay. Discussion on this? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have one motion under Protection Services.
Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor Brockenier. I'll place the motion on the floor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Forrest Rowden. Whereas at the regular meeting, Council considered a request from the Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities requesting proclamation of National Accessibility Week in the Town of Cobourg. And whereas 1 week each year is recognized across Canada as National Access Awareness Week and is an opportunity to highlight accessibility awareness, and whereas the town of Cobourg is committed to accessibility, now therefore be it resolved that Mayor Brocanier and council members proclaim the week of May 28th to June 3rd, 2017 as National Access Awareness Accessibility Week as requested by the Honourable Carla Qualtrough, Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities, in order to highlight and promote inclusion and accessibility in the town of Cobourg. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry, Your Worship, that's your question.
Well, I was going to ask for any discussion on this, but seeing none, I would like to say that at County Council this Wednesday, we will be doing the same thing. We'll be making a proclamation. As a matter of fact, we have a short presentation on all the accomplishments of the Accessibility Committee, the County Accessibility Committee in the past year, and we will also have some of the accessibility members of the committee present at County Council as well. So it's the work they're doing, not just in municipality but right around the county, is really, really appreciated. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we now have a motion under Planning and Development Services.
Okay, Councillor Burkett.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Henderson. Whereas the Committee of the Whole considered a memo from Planner 1 Heritage regarding the Downtown Cobourg Vitalization Community Improvement Plan 2017 Spring Intake, and whereas 6 applicants for financial support under the Downtown Cobourg Community Improvement Plan CIP were received during the first intake period of 2017, and whereas the review team has determined that the proposed scope of work of each project is consistent with the goals of the Downtown Cobourg Vitalization Community Improvement Plan and meet the program requirements for the Facade Improvement Grant Loan Program and or the Building Improvement Grant Loan Program. Now therefore it be resolved that Council authorize the disbursement of the following 5 financial incentives under the programs of the Downtown Cobourg Community Improvement Plan CIP, save and exempt the application for 77 Albert Street, Cobourg 1226577 Ontario Limited for $8,500 building improvement grant and $15,000 building improvement loan, which will be referred to the Heritage Planner for further report. 1. 18 King Street East, Cobourg, White Facade Improvement Grant in the amount of 50% of the total eligible cost of the project to be confirmed to the maximum grant of $12,500. 2. 26 Chapel Street, Cobourg, Kempthorne, $6,250 facade improvement grant, $3,400 building improvement grant, $12,175 building improvement loan. 3. 34 to 36 Covered Street, Cobourg, Conaway, $3,735 building improvement grant. Number 4, 35 King Street West, Cobourg, Trozzolo, $12,500 building improvement grant. 5, 74 King Street West, Cobourg, Miller, $8,872 building improvement grant.
Okay, it's moved and second. I know there was some discussion on this last week, so I'm expecting there will be a little bit of follow-up again this week, and so I'm opening up to members of council. Councillor Darling.
Yes, Your Worship, you're absolutely correct. Last week we did discuss, and I see in the motion 2 of the building improvement loans are for roofs. It doesn't state that in the motion. They're labeled as building improvement. I'd like to thank Mr. Lee for his comment tonight. I had many comments from others out there who agreed with Councillor Sagan and I that roofs were not part of what we deemed as the CIP. I guess it's a little play on words when you talk about structural and whatnot, but the roof is considered a building envelope, and if the person doesn't maintain their roof, then I'm not sure we should be helping them with the rest of their building. It's a very, very important part of the building. I do understand that, but it's the regular routine maintenance. And if you have heritage windows, you can kind of let them go and whatnot. But when you let your roof go and expect the taxpayer to pick up a tab on the roof, I feel that is just unacceptable. But I'll leave it for council, so I will be voting against the motion as I did last week.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Further comments, Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too had a week to consider my comments, namely that I absolutely agree with the expenditure on enhancing the buildings through replacing the roofs, because when I think of the CIP program, we have 8 categories. Facade improvement grant loan program is only one of 8. And for me, the CIP is an incentive for owners to take on those difficult projects that will ultimately enhance the downtown, not just for what it looks like from the outside, the facade improvements, but for its usage inside. And when we have a commercial core heritage district conservation area, and we support projects like that, then we may also be encouraging other entrepreneurs, building owners. We have some buildings that are in pretty terrible shape that nobody will want to buy, and yet there they are, and they're going to need fundamental work, including the roof. And that's the project I'm encouraging, because for me the CIP is about intensification of the downtown. We were supporting this instead of the civvy. I understood the pushback, but my understanding was that this program, this money, and these 8 categories leveraged in a way could cause people to invest in downtown beyond what their storefront looks like. And that's important to downtown vitalization. Main floor, storefront. Second floor, business or residential. Third floor, residential. And you need a solid roof. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councillor Rowden.
As Your Worship, and I'm sorry I wasn't here last week for the discussion, but and I too kind of skeptical about putting taxpayers' money towards new roofs in the downtown area, and I agree with Councillor Darling in some sense of the way here. But without a roof and without the repairs done, and I know it's pretty costly in the downtown area because of them being 3-story, that you end up with degraded interior, and I know that a couple of tenants that I visited have a lot of damage on the inside because the roof was not done, and of course they're just tenants, they're not owners. So, and I don't know what the cost is downtown for rent, but the same token, they certainly need to have a roof done, and I'm sort of in between here, one way or the other, to support this or against it. So I'll have to see what happens.
Well, Councillor Rowden, you weren't here last week, and so what I spoke to last week was the fact that on February the 13th of this year, Council unanimously approved Ms. Tori LaPere's memo on the CIP program, all the criteria that are in the program and the evaluation criteria. So building preservation was all part of that. Preservation was part of the presentation that she made, and so I think if you don't preserve the buildings, they will slowly deteriorate. And I think even though I agree somewhat with Councillor Darling that you would think that would be the first thing a building owner would look after is the roof. If it's been let go, we need to make sure that they have the incentive to preserve it, so that it doesn't do more damage to the building. And so that's why I'm supporting it. Councillor
Yes, Your
Forrest,
Worship.
Councillor-
And I guess you might say the Park Theatre down here is a set example of that. The roof not being done, and the damage has got to the extent now where we have to almost board it up to make sure that it's going to be kept as a heritage building.
Well, you're exactly correct on that, because it's not just the Park Theatre, but there are other buildings in town where we're looking at demolition by neglect, and we're serious enough about preserving those buildings that if the owners aren't going to take it on, the responsibility on themselves, the town will take it over and actually put in some, put a preservation construction in place to make sure that the building isn't demolished by neglect, and then we put that on the tax base. So roofs are an important part of the preservation of any building. Further discussion. Councillor Darling?
Yes, just to elaborate a little bit on what just has been said. I do agree with everything that's been said to the point of doing the roof. And I feel we're setting a precedent here where we may get nothing but grants just requesting us to do roofs. And I don't think that's what the taxpayer is looking for here.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Seguin?
I also will be voting against this for one simple reason. I think that a community improvement plan is taxpayer funded, and I would have liked to have seen, had these two instances where roofs were actually going to be fixed, that we had a history of the buildings, the building owner. There's a lot of buildings downtown that have been neglected for a long time, and if the owner has been neglecting his building for a long time, I strongly feel that if it's come to push or shove with regarding the roof on a building, then the taxpayers should not be funding that. If you look at what Reno Ferrari has done for his building, I mean, it's visible, it's exciting, people go in, they really enjoy the downtown, it's part of the visualization of the downtown. Nobody can see a roof, and yes, it is an important part to what Councillor Rowden was saying and Councillor Darling, but it's the owner's imperative to fix that roof. If he owns a building or she owns a building and you let the roof go, then I'm sorry, but taxpayers should not have to fix the rest of should not have to fix the roof. If the facade, if you've invested continuously in your building for seconds, to your point, Councillor McCarthy, for second stories and people moving in and revitalizing the downtown, important. But if you've neglected a building for all those years and you expect taxpayers to pay for it, totally wrong.
Okay, Councillor Rowden again.
Your Worship, could we ask for a recorded vote?
Okay. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Worship. I do want to have an opportunity to respond to the comments by Councillor Seguin. When the consultants were presenting on the CIVI and the CIP, this issue came up. Are we rewarding neglectful landlords? And the truth of the matter is that, quite rightly, we don't know the individual stories of all the buildings. So I have no idea if Mr. Ferrari, who recently purchased the building downtown, was fortunate enough to buy a building that doesn't need a new roof. But if we're going to preserve the downtown long term, we have to bite those situations, like Councillor Rodden said, Park Theatre. We want to show people that we will not let the downtown deteriorate. So it's an uneven playfield. We cannot make an assumption that the reason a roof is deteriorated is because that landlord has let the maintenance go. It could very well be that we will find somebody who will buy a building that the landlord wants to unload and fix it up because of the CIP. So I'm not prepared to say that those who are asking for help with the roof replacement, which they're investing in it as well, are being rewarded. It's a case-by-case basis, and therefore we can't make generalities. Thank you.
Councillor Burkett.
I'd just like to thank everyone for their difference in comments and opinions. It's great to hear that, for and against. I'd just like to say that one thing is, they are investing part of the money into it. So example, on like Cover Street, we're only less than 50% of the grant money. And the other one there, which is, I think, a little worse off on the Main Street, I think it's around 8,000. I think the project was costed at 26,600. So they're not even at 50% of the grant. So they are putting some substantial money into it. I think we're just kind of giving them that nudge to go forward with it. And I'm hoping, I don't obviously know who the contractors are, but it will, give some money back into the local economy as well.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
At this point, I'm certainly going to support it because we supported, at least I did initially, when I read the first investment proposal from staff, and I supported it at that time, so I'm going to remain consistent. But I think sometimes what we forget about is we talk about the roof, but we forget about the scaffolding. I know just the project behind us on 2nd Street Fire Hall, if we were to do that independently on a separate issue, scaffolding could run us at least $10,000, and it has nothing to do with the roof repair because that's still on top. So the bottom line is to do roof repairs in downtown Cobourg. Bottom line is for anyone, it's extremely expensive. I concur with Councillor Burkett. When you look at the overall costing, because it's got to be somewhere between 26 and 30,000 they're putting out. Yes, we are contributing to that, but to me it's a very small factor. If we can start to seal these buildings and we can get to the improvement in the interior and we can put the new bylaws that are coming forward from the county about the use of 2nd and 3rd stories from a occupational tax base, I do feel it will start to vitalize our downtown. Because if we don't, then my fear is if you went back to Brantford in the old days, they had 18 to 21 buildings, very much like Cobourg, if you ever went there in the old days. And my answer is they're not there now because they did not preserve any of their buildings, including roofs, and in fact, they were all demolished. I certainly don't want that for the town of Cobourg. So I will be supporting this. I feel it is a dip in the bucket, but I think it's an important dip for us to get to vitalization because we've been at this now for some time.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more comments, there's been a request for a recorded vote, and I'll call for the vote.
Your Worship, as we explain at each meeting when there's a recorded vote, when a member present requests a recorded vote, all members present at the council or committee meeting must vote in alphabetical order. And the names of those voted yes and those who voted no against shall be recorded in the minutes. The clerk shall state the tally of the vote, and the mayor or presiding office shall announce the results. Mayor Brockeneer?
Yes.
Councillor Darling?
No.
Sorry, Councillor Burkett?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Henderson?
Yes.
Councillor McCarthy?
Yes.
Councillor Rowden?
Yes.
Councillor Sege?
No.
Your Worship, we have 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
The motion is carried.
Your Worship, we now have motions under community services.
Councillor Sigan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Motion from the Committee of the Whole to approve the final Phase 4 Victoria Square design and public art selection, letters awarded. The motion reads, whereas the Committee of the Whole considered moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Darling. Whereas the Committee of the Whole considered a memo from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding Phase 4 Victoria Square design and public art selection, now therefore be it resolved that Council approve the final design as presented by CIMA Plus on April 17, 2017, as the final design for Phase 4 Victoria Square, Cobourg Market Square, and further that Council approves the recommendation of the Victoria Square Committee and select art submission letters awarded as submitted by Stephen Cruz as a preferred public art should the Phase 4 project proceed, and further that the Council directs staff to pursue funding under the provincial and federal programs so as to allow the project to proceed.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Seguin again.
The motion is from the Committee of the Whole to support the Santa Claus Parade, including setting up a Santa Claus Parade fund and provision of float building space. The motion, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Darling, whereas the Committee of the Whole considered a memo from the events coordinator regarding the Santa Claus Parade follow-up, now therefore be it resolved that the Council support the Santa Claus Parade and its current organizing committee by issuing tax receipts and setting up a Santa Claus Parade Fund to collect sponsorship and pay bills, and further that Council will provide float building space and additional police support where required.
Okay, discussion on this. It was good news last week when Andrew Hall came forward and said the Santa Claus Parade Committee was alive and very active, and so I think that was a big relief to everybody. Any comments, discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we now have the reading of the bylaws.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Worship. Members of Council, there are 7 bylaws for presentation, namely a bylaw to amend bylaw number 8-2016, being a bylaw to define the composition and terms of reference for advisory committees, local boards, and internal working groups established by and or involving the Town of Cobourg and council members to revise the terms of reference for the Economic Development Advisory Committee. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 43-2015, being a bylaw to regulate and license refreshment vehicles in the Town of Cobourg. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an agreement between the Town of Cobourg and the Cobourg Downtown Business Improvement Area Board for use of office space in the market building for the Cobourg DBIA. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an Ontario Building Code limiting distance agreement for property located at 84 and 92 Henry Street, Cobourg. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with TVM Cobourg Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services Inc. for a mixed-use development related parking lot at 136 Orr Street, Cobourg. A bylaw to remove the holding H symbol from the properties known as 135 Orr Street and 136 Orr Street, Cobourg. A bylaw to designate lands not subject to part lot control, blocks 13, 15, and 16, Plan 39M, Wilkins Gate, Joan Chelovich Way, New Amherst Limited. I move that first reading be given these bylaws.
Seconder, Councillor Burkett. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, I move that Council go into the Committee of the Whole for the second reading of these bylaws.
Seconder, Councillor Rowden. All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to amend bylaw number 8-2016, being a bylaw to define the composition and terms of reference for advisory committees, local boards, and internal working groups established by and or involving the Town of Cobourg and council members to revise the terms of reference for the Economic Development Advisory Committee. And I move for second reading.
Any discussion on the second reading? All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to amend bylaw 43-2015, being a bylaw to regulate and license refreshment vehicles in the Town of Cobourg. I move for second reading.
Any discussion on the second reading? All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an agreement between the Town of Cobourg and the Cobourg Downtown Business Improvement Area Board for use of office space in the market building for the Cobourg DBIA. I move for second reading.
Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Henderson?
If you could, Your Worship, if I could ask our CEO, it won't change the, I want to be clear here to council and to the public, it won't change the agreement or the that's coming forward between the town and the Cobourg DBIA, but I'll ask the CEO just to highlight 2 points that will be added later to the internal discussions that we did have.
Okay, that's very good. CEO Peacock, can you expand on that, please?
Yes, Your Worship. The first item is is a housekeeping item where it's with regards to terminology of changing the word janitor to custodian. The second item is the seventh bullet under 6.01, where we have given the use of the market building, the DBA can book it free of charge for their board, subcommittees, and AGM. We've added, in the event that the market building is booked, the DBA shall have access to unbooked meeting rooms within Victoria Hall for their use. So that just provides them space if the market building is booked.
Okay. Any discussion on that? All in favor of the second reading? And it's carried. Okay, Councillor McCarthy? Protection Services?
Yes, thank you. This is the bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an Ontario Building Code limiting distance agreement for property located at 84 and 92 Henry Street, Coburg.
Okay.
Pardon? I move for second reading.
Okay, thank you. Discussion on this is only a matter of inches, really. All in favor of the second reading? Carried. And Councillor Burkett.
Thank you, Your Worship. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with TVM Coburg Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services Inc. for a mixed-use development and related parking lot at 136 Orr Street, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay. This certainly makes it official that TVM can go ahead and begin. As a matter of fact, this Friday there is a groundbreaking ceremony we've all been invited to, so I'm hoping to see all members of council out there, because it has been, for some of us anyway, who have been around through the whole process, it's been quite a struggle, but I guarantee you the finished product will be worth it. Councillor Darling.
Yes, Your Worship, just on this bylaw, it says for 136 or 136 Orr Street is the current property. Should it read 135?
The development is only taking place in 136, but 135 is going to be the parking lot.
No.
No? Is it the other way around?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
sorry.
It's saying for development of 136, but 136 is, if I'm not mistaken, is the current Legion Village. I just want to confirm that we have the address correct in this bylaw.
Okay, so maybe we're just reading the wording wrong, because it says in a related parking lot at 136 Orr.
Okay.
So is that
okay? Maybe okay.
Is that Mr. Franklin? Is that the intent?
Councillor Dolan is quite correct in this instance. It should actually be 135. That's the primary location of the structure. 136 is the existing Legion building on the north side of Orr Street where the parking lot would go. The primary, obviously, new construction will be on that south side.
Yeah, that's what I was asking for clarification. Thank you.
Very good, Councillor Darling. Further discussion on it? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Burkett.
Should it read both in there?
Yeah, just for the record, can you make the correction?
So I should say both addresses in there?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with TVM Coburg Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services Inc. for a mixed-use development and related parking lot at 135 and 136 Orr Street, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay, very good. I wouldn't want to have a minor technicality put this off the rails after all we've been through. So thank you for that, Councillor Darling. All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to remove the holding H symbol from the properties known as 135 Orr Street and 136 Orr Street, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay, discussion on the second reading. All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to designate lands not subject to part lot control, blocks 13, 15, and 16, Plan 39M, Wilkins Gate, Joan Chelovich Way, New Amherst Limited. I move this for second reading.
All in favor? Carried.
Committee rise.
All in favor? Carried.
Okay, let's see. Your Worship, the bylaws. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 8-2016 being a bylaw to define the composition and terms of reference for advisory committees, local boards, and internal working groups established by and or involving the Town of Cobourg and council members to revise the terms of reference for the Economic Development Advisory Committee. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 43-2015, being a bylaw to regulate licensed refreshment vehicles in the Town of Cobourg. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an agreement between the Town of Cobourg and the Cobourg Downtown Business Improvement Area Board for use of office space in the market building for the Cobourg DBIA. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an Ontario Building Code limiting distance agreement for property located at 84 and 92 Henry Street, Cobourg. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with TVM Cobourg Inc. and Lakefront Utility Service Inc. for mixed-use development at 135 Orr Street and a related parking lot at 136 Orr Street, Cobourg. A bylaw to remove the holding H symbol from the properties known as 135 Orr Street and 136 Orr Street, Cobourg. A bylaw to designate lands not subject to part lot control, blocks 13, 15, and 16, Plan 39M, Wilkins Gate, Joan Chelovich Way, New Amherst Limited, have received first and second readings without amendments. I move third reading of these bylaws and that they finally be passed and ordered, signed by the mayor and the municipal clerk with the corporate seal affixed.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Burkett. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, at this time we have the council coordinator announcements.
I only have one item tonight, and that is I want to remind everyone that MP Kim Rudd is making some important funding announcements this Wednesday at 5 p.m. here at Victoria Hall. Certainly one of the funding announcements is going to be good news for us here in Cobourg, so I would encourage everyone to show up for that. It does fall into the ECDEV category. And that's the extent of my report tonight. Deputy Mayor Henderson. Wednesday, May the 17th at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Worship. At this point, we're working on a number of issues which I've already announced in past coordinator reports. So on that basis, I'll return to you to pass it over to Councillor Darling.
Okay, Councillor Darling.
Okay, thank you. Just a few things. Just to report that we did have an open house for our urban forest consultation with the public. We had approximately 30 people attend there with some good feedback. On the waterfront users needs assessment detailed design, we had interactive public open house on May 10th. We had approximately 60 people there in the first session, and I'm just not sure how many showed up for the second session. I didn't take part in that. So we had 25 more for the second session. Another good news story, our greenhouse had its open house, and we had over 200 people attend the greenhouse on Saturday morning. So it shows that people are really taking an interest, and maybe this year with our Communities in Bloom, we'll see a lot more participants from the residences in the area. For our recreation department at the CCC, our RBC Cup is well underway. We've had a few games. Currently, I hope nobody is watching our show tonight. They're all at the Cougar game. Some real good hockey. There's still tickets available, and I'd highly recommend people get out for that. And the Kodiaks start their first game Sunday, May 28th, so that's next on the agenda for CCC for summer entertainment. The ranked pickleball tournament is June 10th and 11th. Is still going to be a big event. Most of the boats are in the marina, and unfortunately we have some issues with the hydro due to the very high water, so there's some concerns there, but we're looking into it. The dredging operations are still ongoing, and basically at this time, that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Darling. I do recall talking to someone last year about the pickleball tournament. They said they had 100 people show up for the tournament, but it was going to be even bigger this year. Do you have any idea what the how many have entered so far?
Right now, that they say they have a capacity of 150 participants and 75 teams. So how many have actually signed up, I can't answer at this time.
Oh, it's a growing sport anyway. That's good news.
Very much so.
Councillor McCarthy, a comment?
Thank you, Mayor Brockenier. I just wanted to share that regarding the urban forest management, there were surveys there to fill out, but I was told it would be on the website, and it is on the website, so the public can fill out the survey.
Yes, and thank you for that, Councillor McCarthy. I did mean to mention, too, that for our interactive public open house in the waterfront, the surveys for that will be on the website for the end of the week. We're just got to have a couple of fine tweaks to them.
Councillor Rowden.
Thank you, Worship. And of course, last week I wasn't here, and I was away to the Ontario Waterworks and Wastewater Conference in Niagara Falls, and a lot of the issues that come forward are basically some of the things that we've been used to a lot along the way here. And Cobourg's in pretty good shape compared to some of the municipalities across Ontario, let me tell you. One of the things that's coming down the tubes is asset management changes in the way we do it. The legislation is being changed probably between now and this coming fall, so we'll have to watch for that. I attended the Cobourg Legion softball opening on Saturday for you, Your Worship, and of course there was no rain. There was a great turnout, and of course it is the 60th anniversary of the Cobourg Legion sponsoring these teams, so that's a great asset to the town of Cobourg to have them do that. Again, I was at the RBC Cup games pretty well, mostly since Saturday, and there's been some real good hockey and good turnouts, good hockey. To start on the public works thing, James Street construction's underway, so if you get any dust in that area, we're going to have to deal with it. I know the contractors moved all equipment in this last day or so, and they're certainly getting underway. We've had the first meeting with the Baltimore Development Services on the Hardin Street Bridge, and the work will soon begin on that. Some of the signs are going up now as we speak. The new wheels bus has been delivered and is in service, and that's a good news story because we didn't expect it this quickly, but anyways. And the tender for the new energy efficient aerator blowers in plant number 1 closes tomorrow, so we'll know who gets that job. That's the good news story again, because I believe there's some funding coming forward for that. And the next step in the design for the new stormwater pond behind Candapal is to get an archaeological assessment done. Quotations for work have been invited, so that could have been an old original Indian site at one time, so we certainly have to look at that situation. And of course, road crews are out repairing sidewalk deficiencies, and based on the annual inspections, there's quite a few that are either up or down or need some replacement. So you'll see them around. I think there's a report coming forward in the next couple of weeks in regards to the Abbott Street sidewalk extension. We also, to mention a couple unfinished items, and we have a Darcy Street traffic study on the unfinished items, and it, of course, we're still waiting for Kawartha Pine Ridge School Board. They were supposed to have done that under the construction guidelines when they did the schools, and it hasn't been completed yet. I don't think Mr. Thrasher has it. And also Darcy Street railway crossing, the roads crew will be widening the concrete sidewalks there through that maze of barriers this week to improve access for motorized scooters and wheelchairs. So that's work underway. So that's 2 items that are on the unfinished business that will be completed for the next committee of the whole. Okay, and that's my report, Your Worship.
Well, thank you very much, and I also appreciate you going up to Legion Fields for the opening of Legion softball season. While you were doing that, I was throwing the first ball at the Cobourg Lawn Bowling Club for their 110th anniversary. So,
oh, it was my pleasure, Your Worship.
It's opening season. Opening season for a lot of sports in town.
And again, there was a lot of people there that I met that I hadn't saw for quite a while, and it was a great morning, actually.
Yeah.
The sun just barely came out when we were finished, so.
Well, we never had any sun. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Your Worship. With the Accessibility Committee, Fire Prevention Officer Aaron Blair is presenting at our meeting on Wednesday as we work towards emergency planning for persons with special needs, and this will be about making your escape plan. And further to Northumberland County and their accessibility initiatives, I'm attending a workshop this Wednesday afternoon called Learn to Be a Sighted Guide workshop, meaning when how to interact with someone who's visually impaired that may need assistance. So I'm really looking forward to that and sharing it with the committee and anybody else. The Coburg Fire Protection Services, I attended the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs Conference May 6th and 7th, and there was a lot of people there. It's all of Ontario fire chiefs and deputy chiefs, and 12 municipal councillors. They do prepare separate workshops for us, and it was very interesting. It was about service delivery and the public's response or sense of what fire services have or do, and their jobs and roles have changed. So it was quite interesting. The Deputy Fire Chief Toronto spoke. But the big part was that the 12 municipal councillors from all over Ontario got geared up in boots, pants, coat, helmet, and fought fires, and used the jaws of life and cut. And I have a healthy respect for firefighters in uniform under all sorts of challenging circumstances. It was a remarkable opportunity. The fire services building, Coburg Fire Service, one of their Canada 150 initiatives was to get the flags up and replace the flagpoles. They weren't working. And Chief Mike Villeneuve is very pleased at the interrelationship of Public Works and Coburg Fire Services, because when Building 7 was getting theirs up, they helped the fire services get it up, and they look quite wonderful. But also there's been some wonderful initiatives by fire services to open up the building to community groups that request, and you may be aware that the settlement workers in schools, it's a program to introduce immigrants and refugees, families and children to their new community that's very unusual to them, and they gave 16 people a tour of the fire hall and the equipment that's used, and they were rewarded with Syrian cooking. And as well, the AGM of the Coburg Museum was at the fire hall, and members of that public were given a tour. So that's great public outreach. Coburg Police Services, it is National Police Service. Nope, sorry, let me get it right. It is Police Week this week. I'll get to that in a moment, but and I won't take the report away from Councillor Sagan, because the DBIA had a girls' night out event, and cops in suits were featured. So 5 of the police services, including the 3 new recruits, because I thought, what a great way to introduce them to the downtown core, got all dressed up and were just, well, as one woman said it, a bit of eye candy downtown. Sorry if I offend anybody by that comment. I'm just quoting. They had a bar. Oh, their facility is wonderful at the back. They can have barbecues. They raised funds for Rebound, and a big event was Cops for Cancer, and all the kids at CR Gummo raised over $10,000 to dye Deputy Chief Paul Vandergraaf's hair blue. And when I saw him attend a police services board meeting, I looked at him and I went, yo, because he looks like a, very different, but he was a good sport. This Friday I'm attending Serving with Pride, and it's a program offered to police services in Ontario to build relationships with the LBGT community. And it's quite in-depth, and I'll be attending that with the members of the police forces. I do want to give some notice to the community, two ways they can help out. First of all, May 17th, Wednesday and Thursday, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the police service station. It's the community closet for proms and suits. So anybody in the community that has gently worn formal wear, drop it off to the Coburg Police Services. And remember, the entrance is at the side at the moment because of renovations. And they give students the opportunity to try things on. So, in fact, try and get it there before Wednesday and Thursday, because students from Northumberland area high schools can come and try them on. Because of the renovations going on at the station, the normal kind of activities that would happen, tours and that kind of thing, are going to be postponed. However, this Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., there are a number of activities going on at the station that the public's invited to. Here's one. Free document shredding. I think I'll go. Free electronics drop-off bin, Identikit program, Children's Safety Village and Bike Row, and a free barbecue for that. And then my last piece that I'd like to talk about, Joint Animal Services Control, and I just want council and the mayor to be aware of this. We're meeting bi-weekly now. That's something that the four of us have agreed to. There's a lot of work to be done to make the enterprise more efficient and and have accountability on its expenses. And there's going to be quite a major report come to the four councils: Alnwick-Haldeman, Hamilton, Coburg, and Port Hope. So we're meeting extra, and I'd like to share that Alderville is very interested in beginning discussions in a way that they could receive animal services as well. And the last piece I want to say is that the mayor had asked me to keep track of and be aware of a community initiative for violence against women, and it's called the Thrive Hub, and it started today. And it's an amazing enterprise, because what it means is that when women experience abuse, domestic or otherwise, the services that could meet their needs are segmented, but the hub is bringing all the agencies together Mondays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So this is a great program, a tremendous amount of collaboration in developing protocols and referrals. So there's about 10 lead agencies and access to 30 others. So women should know that if they simply go to Cornerstone at 40 Swain Street, Mondays 9 to 1, they can receive assistance on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. And I would just like to, on behalf of the Police Services Board, thank members of council and staff who came out today for the 13th annual commemoration of Constable Chris Garrett, who made the ultimate sacrifice in serving the town of Coburg. It was thankfully the weather was good, and there was a good turnout, and so several members of council, I know Councillor Darling, Councillor Rowden were there today. I don't recall seeing anyone else, but as I said, it's important that we never forget what Constable Chris Garrett gave to this community. Councillor Burkett, you're next.
I've just a couple items tonight. So the Planning and Sustainability Advisory Committee is very excited. We've met with the consultants for the Sustainable Neighborhood Master Plan for the Tannery District. We met with the consultants and we did a little bit of a site tour, myself and Director McGlashan. The members were unable to attend, but we kind of went through an overview in the committee room. So they're very excited to get that on a roll, and we'll let you know when the meetings are ready for that public. And I just also like to thank, I know he's not here tonight, but Director McGlashan for taking the time to do weekly review with John Hill there at Northumberland 89.7. If you want to hear about the developments, they have a recording on their website. That's northumberland89.7.ca. So I would recommend just checking that out if anyone is interested in hearing what's going on from the Director of Planning and Development. And that's my report.
Thank you. So, Councillor Seguin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few things today. Canada 150, as we know, we're seeing events starting to really ramp up, and there's an awful lot ahead of us. I just wanted to mention, too, the Confederation Tea on July 4th. Tickets are now on sale here at the Concert Hall, and Canada Week has now produced a new 8-page guide. Many of you have probably seen it. It's available with all the events for Canada Week and some of the other events throughout the historic year this year. It's also available at the CCC, so hopefully some people will pick it up during the RBC Cup. The library, the marina, the Dressler House, Concert Hall, and a few businesses here. And I wanted to mention, and everyone on the council table knows, that our event coordinator, Lara Scott, will be leaving Coburg on May 24th, but all her plans and checklists are in place for Canada Week, and we wish Lara the best of luck in Whitby. Their gain is our loss. I'm really going to miss working with her. Downtown BIA, thank you for not doing the whole girls' night out thing. I had a blast, by the way. Before I get to that, though, the Spring Passport that we mentioned a few weeks ago had 3 winners. Ken Peterson won $500, Jane Penny won $250, and Roseanne Reed Can won $250. In total, 8,000 passports were printed, and the BIA received a total of 5,227 entries, meaning that over $500,000 was spent at the 39 participating stores between March 13th and April 30th. So that's what I call a successful campaign. Girls' Night Out was also a really successful event. We started our night out with 2 of my friends that I've just met recently, and I said, come on, let's go out for Girls' Night Out. And we started at 5:30. I think we finally finished at 10:30. And 35 prizes were given away, and the 3 choirs provided music, really well received, and they're going to be invited back for future performances. The tills rang, and businesses were steady to customers. And I personally met all kinds of store owners that I've never met before, because I haven't been here that long. And I was kind of surprised when I got home and added up all my Visa bills, and I think, I really got carried away with this thing, but I had a blast. And I introduced myself to a lot of the store owners. So it was a really good event. The streets were full and the stores were full, which is what more can you ask for. Busker and Art Festival is set for Coburg on Saturday, June 17th. International acts and many local artists are ready to fill the street. And they are actually looking for paid volunteers that day to help with the setup, execution, and teardown. And email page at dbia@downtowncoburg.ca if you're interested. Farmers Market, Mayor Brokeneer and I were happy to officially open the Farmers Market on Saturday, May 6th. There are many new vendors this year, and pretty exciting. Some really neat things. Everything from obviously the fresh produce and the plants, the mushrooms, the baked goods, local food every Saturday morning, obviously behind Victoria Hall, from May to December. And those of you that are on social media, the hashtags are Shop Local and Eat Local. So it's really, really going to be a super summer this year. Coburg Public Library is busy as usual. They have Boomers and Beyond, runs until May 26th. Stop and check out the Seed Library. They have mindfulness meditation. I thought I'd say that, very calm. It's a 3-part series starting May 24th at 6 p.m. And Altered Books, Give an Old Book a New Life, June 7th at 2 p.m. Registration is required. Last thing on my list is the Art Gallery of Northumberland. The current exhibition is called A Marriage of Photography and Weddings. The show will run until June the 18th. And this exhibition celebrates the invention of photography as witnessed through photographs of wedding ceremonies. And the original prints are curated from the collection of Stephen Bulger and Catherine Lash, who have been collecting authentic wedding photographs for more than 15 years. If you're into weddings, that's a place to be. And they're trying to do a few events at the Art Gallery to raise a few dollars. And the first art bus is scheduled for July the 18th. And it departs here from Coburg at 8:30, comes back at 2:30 from Toronto, $69, and it's basically the Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit. And it was interesting. I was in Toronto just on the weekend for Mother's Day, and we drove right by the AGO exhibit, and I was thinking, oh, I may have to come back on that bus because it sounds like it's a pretty good exhibit. And finally, Rick Miller from the AGN is going to be presenting to Northumberland County Council to thank them for their financial support for Northumberland Went to War exhibit. I think that's the first time in the history of the art gallery that they've actually received funding from the county, so they're making a point of presenting and how successful that exhibit was. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillors. Again, since the county is displaying so much of the art from the Art Gallery of Northumberland, I told them there would be a price to pay for that, and obviously they've heeded that advice, which I think is a good thing. Councillor Rowden.
Hey, Your Worship, there's just one item that I forgot to mention tonight there, and last week I think Council will remember that they're invited to the Public Works new building 7, and I think that we all had a great tour. Got to thank staff for their hard work and making sure not only council and staff were given a great tour, but the public, I think, had a tour in the afternoon, and I think it was actually money well spent. I think we had a few years there. We went through them studies and all that, and I believe it was the right thing to do at this point in time if everybody had a chance to see that new building. So,
okay, thank you for that. And that brings us to the last item on the agenda.
Your Worship, we have 2 closed session items for this meeting.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Henderson.
The action recommended that council meet in closed session in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act SO 2001 regarding the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, proposal for transfer or sale of land, number 2, proposal for purchase of land.
Seconder, Councillor Burkett. All in favor? Carried. And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Burkett.